Hello and welcome to another edition of the Steelers Depot live stream. I am Alex Kozora. As always, joining me is Dave Bryan, SteelersDepot.com, here to answer your Steelers questions until the top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Dave, our stream 2 streams ago, I think, was about Pittsburgh punching their ticket to the playoffs. In fact, that was our last stream. So 2 weeks ago, Pittsburgh had just punched their ticket to win the division and go to the playoffs. This time 1 week ago, we were getting ready for the wild card game against the Houston Texans, and now Pittsburgh is looking for a new head coach and a new direction and chapter for this franchise. So things certainly move fast. A lot to talk about. Just got a great super chat we'll address here in a second. But Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing fine on this Monday. Happy Monday to everybody who is chiming in on the live stream tonight. Yeah, you're right. 1 week ago today, life moves fast. 2 weeks ago, that live stream 2 weeks ago seems like it would happen 4 months ago at this point now, and a lot obviously has happened since then. So I imagine we'll have a pretty decent crowd and a lot of questions about head coach search and everything along those lines, and getting myself ready to watch this Indiana-Miami game tonight. So excited for that as well.
Yeah, still football on the television. Be sure to get your questions in, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and of course, check out the site on screen. Have it all covered for you. I'll pull up the tracker in the meantime before we kind of bounce around. But we got to start with a super chat, and you can send in super chats and move to the front of the line. And double HH666, really appreciate the $50 super chat. So put some W's in the chat for him. He says, thank you, Steelers Depot crew, for being a one-stop center for news and analysis this busy January through probably an even more hectic spring. Been busy hopping back and forth, seeing family and with business, but glad to always listen. We're so glad you're here. Really appreciate the very generous donation. And you've been in these streams before, so appreciate that, and excited to go into this unknown, because for Steelers Depot, the only head coach the site has ever covered in Pittsburgh has been Mike Tomlin, and that's going to change here pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that generous donation there. And we've got a great crew that obviously went. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to jump on these live streams like we do. We just got guys that do great work on the site and all. And yeah, go back to, I was just sitting there before we got on too, thinking, man, it's kind of surreal to watch the Steelers coaching search happen in real time, if you will, because in 2007, I think obviously Twitter was still around, but you just did not kind of you didn't get these moment by moment things, not only with the Steelers, but around the league. And obviously we've seen teams in the age of Twitter and social media have to go through head coaching searches before, but you're always just sit back as kind of more of a spectator more than anything. So it was kind of such a surreal moment today that, man, anytime anybody gets the virtual interview, I mean, it happens instantaneously. And back in 2007, when the site first started and all, you're getting it basically all out of the newspapers, the online versions at the time there. So quite a different scenario than 19 years ago.
Yeah, our David O is going to be writing about that here, I think, later this week, about that 07 process and some of the when did things happen and how did it transpire? And most of it's going to just come from newspaper archives. But you see the 9 candidates on screen, which is now a list of 8, with Jeff Hafley, the Packers DC, becoming the Dolphins' new head coach, and Pittsburgh is moving on to in-person interviews this week. That was according to Director of Communications Burt Lawton a short time ago. But let's get to your questions. We'll go up here to the top with Brian Jonker 510, who says, Clint Kubiak is head coach with Randall L as OC. They will get us the first three-peat of Lombardi's ever done. You heard it from me first. Actually, do you think Randall L is ready to be a coordinator? Yeah, I think he's probably ready to be a coordinator. Been around Ben Johnson, been in the league for a little bit. But with Clint Kubiak, Pittsburgh has shown no reported interest in him. And because of that, and because of Seattle still being in the postseason, the Steelers could not talk to Clint Kubiak until the Seahawks season is over. So if they win the NFC title game over the Rams this weekend, Pittsburgh could not talk to him until the Super Bowl was concluded. I take that to say that they have no interest in Clint Kubiak to be the team's next head coach.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. And as far as Antoine Randall L goes, For him to be OC, though, you would think there would be some sort of link to whoever is the head coach, right? And what kind of links does Randall L. have of any of these candidates? Is there any way to draw any dots or connections to any of these guys that are candidates right now, Alex?
I'd have to look, but I'm not aware of any. Now, obviously, guys cross paths. They don't always have to work together to know each other, but I don't believe there's a direct link that I can think of.
All right, me either.
Brian Flores was in the NFC North with Randall L. That's maybe the closest I can get you, but that's about it.
All right, yeah, I agree.
All right, so it may be Clay Kubiak, but not Clint Kubiak. John Pennington says, how do you feel about the referees' calls this weekend and in these playoffs so far? What is a catch and pass interference? I'm generally okay with it, and I think I've become friends with Joe Burrow, who tweeted out the calls were correct there. I know a lot of controversy and some definitely tight calls, but, largely I think they were the right calls.
We talked a little bit about that on the podcast this morning, and yeah, look, even in real time when that interception happened, I thought it was an interception. And then, obviously the talk and then a pool report. I don't know if you saw the pool report that came out after that and all. And then yesterday on the NFL Network on the pregame, they had their guy, the former referee or director of officiating, I think that was on breaking it down and all. I'm okay with it. I just. The thing, and I was okay with the pass interference calls as well, too. But the thing is, you just hate to see things like that happen late in games that play a big part, obviously, in the outcome. And there's never really a good time for those things to happen. But after going through and seeing all the cut-ups and all like that, I'm okay with the way those calls played out.
Same here. All right, next question comes from Mike Adesso. It says, I know it's early. That's him saying that 3 times, not me. But have you guys started looking at any draft eligibles yet? Any players to catch your eye for the Steelers? For it's Miami nickel Keontae Scott, top 100 player, compares him to Mike Sanderstill out of Michigan a couple years ago. We are just starting our process. I'm getting our draft coverage together. You see on screen our first mock draft Monday today go up, but I really have not started yet, so I could not give you a good answer. You do have the corner for Indiana tonight, who's at the Angelo Pons, who's in this mock draft that we did this morning. That's an interesting guy, lack of size, but some big playmaking, including that pick 6 to start off the Oregon game. So I am still very much in my infancy in this. We'll have boots on the ground for the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl coming up, so a lot of draft coverage coming your way.
About the extent that I've gone further than knowing a lot about some of these quarterbacks is the fact that with the All-Star games getting underway annually, I put out these cheat sheets in Excel form for our guys or for guys and girls, because Dr. Mel's going again, to help get them ready to learn about as much about a lot of different players, because obviously at this point we have the rosters announced for both the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. And basically what I do is I set up Excel sheets for these guys and girls with links to the college bios of the players, links to the stat pages of these players, along with some initial or last known kind of like height and weight type of things, the high schools that they went to, their hometowns, and things along that nature. And along with that, you click on a couple of bios as you go, and that's just my initial feeling out process to learn a little bit. And of course, I look at the guys that kind of match up height, weight, especially some. I immediately go to some of these defensive linemen and check out the guys that are 6'5", close to 300 and over. Just get kind of a mental note compared to there. But and I say this every year about this time. Once the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl get over with, it's amazing how much info that you can pick up and learn a lot about, or a little about, a lot of guys at that time. So we will start really accelerating our knowledge on a lot of these guys over the course of the next couple of weeks here when these All-Star games get underway.
Yeah, well said, and they're just about to start kicking off. Garrett Thumbertson, 5649, says, since Steelers players reportedly expressed to the organization that they want Aaron Rodgers back, is that part of the calculation of interviewing McCarthy, a short-term commitment? I wouldn't interpret it that way. I think it's Pittsburgh casting a wide net. There's obvious connections. McCarthy himself to the city of Pittsburgh, being a Pittsburgh native, working at Pitt early in his coaching career. And so I think Pittsburgh just wanting to take a look at that. Also, McCarthy's lack of barriers as a free agent coach. You can interview him in person whenever. Not a lot of hoops to jump through. Makes it easier as well. So it's not even a guarantee Rodgers comes back and plays in 2026. In fact, the odds-on likelihood is that he does not. He could, but more likely to retire than not. So you can't hire McCarthy, hope Rodgers comes back, and then he says, I'm going to go back to California and do whatever. So it'd be a conversation if you did hire McCarthy. It may increase a chance to some degree of Rodgers returning, but it's not the driving factor.
Right. I think more than anything, it's just an easy link, right? This is a guy with Pittsburgh roots, obviously a former head coach. We've got a couple of them. Flores, obviously, and his connections. You've got guys that are easy to link overall. And I said it right out of the chute once Mike Tomlin stepped down, what was it, a week ago? Tuesday, I guess, that, it was going to be, I would be surprised if Mike McCarthy did not at least get himself on the interview list overall. And I think that's what you see there. I think the least of their worries at this point, Art Rooney II, said this in his press conference the other day, that the likelihood, it seems very, very unlikely, even if McCarthy were to somehow be the new head coach, that Aaron Rodgers is going to be back in Pittsburgh in 2026.
Yeah, that's where all signs are pointing. Chat, I should have asked you maybe to start, but I'll pull up the list of names here. Who do you guys want to see as Pittsburgh's head coach? Of the 8 known and reported candidates for the job, who do you guys want to see? And again, that's 7 virtuals. We're going to cross Halfley off the list since he's going to go down to South Beach. He's there right now. Flores, McCarthy in person this week for the first interview. 1 known second interview already slated. That's with Dolphins DC Anthony Weaver. But who do you guys personally want to see as this team's next head coach of the list? Let us know in the chat, and we'll talk about the answers here in a moment. Until then, we'll talk to Frat Boy Fishing, who says, hey, Alex, does the Bills head coach opening make it much more unlikely the Steelers land Shula, hoping he's the eventual pick? No, I wouldn't say that it makes it much more unlikely. Remember, Buffalo, by virtue of just getting in the head coach fold today, they can't speak with any of the Rams coaches, any coach in the playoffs right now, until their season ends. Even during that next week, if the Rams advance and they're in that kind of bye week between title game and Super Bowl, they still can't talk to them. Now, Pittsburgh can, because they had initial contact and initial interview, but teams who have not spoken to those candidates at all, like Buffalo, are forbidden until the season ends. And so they could be waiting a long time to even have a first conversation with somebody like Chris Shula.
And do you think that Buffalo, and it's hard to say, I don't follow them on a day-to-day basis, but do you think of them coming off of McDermott and with Josh Allen, obviously, in his prime, do you think that they're going to lean towards a more offensive-minded head coach? Or do you think that they just want the best candidate regardless of side of the ball?
I think they're in that Pittsburgh mode of looking for the best head coach. It may come internal. It may come with Joe Brady because of the close relationship with Josh Allen and the fact they don't promote Brady. Then could they lose him to another team looking at him as a head coach? That's possible. So I don't know. Their search is so fresh and new. They just fired their head coach less than 12 hours ago. But I think they're going to keep things pretty open-ended.
I guess the other thing is when you do have an experienced and kind of, a franchise quarterback that's played that long, like Josh Allen, do you want a first-time head coach?
Yeah, again, it just comes down to the candidate. Maybe you're looking for a more experienced guy ready to take this team as a Super Bowl contender, but you never know. I mean, I think any head coach worth their merit can turn a team around or push a team forward, so you get the right guy. That's all that really matters. But you would think maybe they would lean towards a more experienced option. Again, it may also be internally with promoting Joe Brady. It's rare to see that internal promotion happen, but it has occurred a time or two, and that may be the direction that Buffalo goes. For the chat, a lot of Shula responses. Steelers Art. We got the Bearded Clam, Ty Dillinger, Dan, all saying Shula, couple for Shieldhouse as well. Homer, Ben, are saying Shieldhouse. Double H8 says he wants someone not on the list. Who's your suggestion? Is it Robert Saleh? Is it somebody this team has not talked to? Clint Kubiak? I'd be interested in that. Saying best candidate is a leader of men and a brilliant game theory tactician. He can hire the best OC and DCs available. So it's been a lot of the Rams coordinators and pass game coaches in Shula and Shieldhouse. And again, Pittsburgh cannot have in-person interviews with them until Monday at the earliest. All right, let's go back up to the questions. Be sure to like this stream, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate that. Got Martell Harrison, says, Steeler Nation, let's go. Thank you for being here. Rob James, picking up what I said. I know we can't speak to either of the Rams coaches until the 26th in person. With that being said, can we hire either or on that date too? Pittsburgh has to fulfill the Rooney Rule, which they probably will do by the end of the week. You have to have 2 in-person interviews with minority candidates. That's going to be Anthony Weaver and Bryan Flores. Flores is going to meet with a team tomorrow. I don't know for sure when Weaver's coming in. Do we know the date on Weaver, Dave?
Oh,
I don't think we do. It's sometime this week.
Yeah, let me look and see if I can find if there's been anything on that.
But that is
you guys have been updating the tracker pretty religiously,
yeah.
So I think.
But that is a requirement. You can't hire a head coach until then. So if the Rams lose to Seattle and the Rams season is over, then yeah, you can definitely go, get those guys in the building and hire them right away, assuming that you fulfilled the Rooney Rule. If their season is not over, I don't know exactly how that works. I don't think they can sign a contract because they're still working for the Rams. They can do the whole agree to terms and kind of sign it and put pen to paper the day after the Super Bowl, which is probably the more likely instance. I'd have to kind of check back for teams on or coaches on Super Bowl winning teams or just Super Bowl appearing teams to see when they got hired officially. So I think it kind of depends a bit on what happens this upcoming weekend.
Now, Joe Person, who covers the Carolina Panthers, has Avero scheduled for a second interview in person with that's with the Raiders tomorrow.
Okay.
So I don't even think we have a date on him. I'm trying to find out if we.
Yeah, Avero had a virtual interview. There's no reporting of a second interview. Could happen. Could be happening. We don't know it though.
Right. I don't know if we have a date on, and you would think it's this coming week sometime.
For Weaver, yeah, it's going to probably be sometime this week. The Dolphin season has been over, obviously, so probably Wednesday, Thursday, something like that would be reasonable. But once that's done, then Pittsburgh can technically make a hire at any point. But again, for teams still in the playoffs and coaches still part of their organization, I don't think they'll officially sign until their season comes to an end, which could be as late as, first or second Sunday in February, I think it is.
All right, it's probably not Tuesday with Weaver because he's the Ravens are bringing him in on Tuesday.
Okay, Wednesday would be logical to make the drive or short flight from Baltimore to Pittsburgh and interview on Wednesday then.
That sounds probably very likely.
So that's my guess of it. Flores Tuesday, Weaver Wednesday. I wonder how many guys will come in for second interviews. Pittsburgh has traditionally done 4. It kind of feels like they're going to do 4 again.
Okay.
That's kind of my guess at it. But again, you have Flores and McCarthy coming in person for first interviews. I imagine they'd come back. Or would the first interview basically be the second interview, especially for Flores, because you already know him? So it's not like you have to use the first session to kind of get to know this guy. Is it more just brass tacks of let's kind of make this a finalist interview? That's kind of an interesting part of this.
Okay, here's something from Diana Rossini from The Athletic from 10 hours ago. Maybe we missed this. Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver has a second interview scheduled with the Steelers for Friday.
Okay. Maybe we did. I don't believe that's in our tracker right now. Let me check. I don't see that in our tracker. So for this upcoming Friday, she's saying. That's
what she says. I'll put this in. Let our guys know this just in case.
We can update the tracker there. So maybe
we're doing work. We're multitasking here.
Yeah. So we'll get that updated. A lot of information coming in, and that's obviously been new for us in a hectic time of year. We got a $5 super chat, very generous, from J-Dub Akron, who says, of the candidates with offensive backgrounds, who do you believe has the most quarterback-friendly philosophies? such as Shanahan with Purdy. I mean, you have three offensive-minded candidates in McCarthy, Clay Kubiak, and Nathan Scheelhaus. Scheelhaus and Kubiak are so young, and so you're trying to find exactly what their philosophy is. Obviously, the work that Clay has done with Brock Purdy, he was assistant quarterbacks coach when Purdy came into the league and really helped develop him, is impressive. Scheelhaus regarded as a really bright mind, so both probably fit, but I think in terms of what is the clearest example of it, I think Clay Kubiak, just for the work he's done with Brock Purdy.
Yeah. One thing, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with Jesse Minter earlier today, researching some more stuff on him. It's hard to link him to anybody if you were to ask Jesse Minter during an interview, well, if you kind of put together who do you have kind of in mind for a staff other than his dad, it's hard to kind of link him. Because, obviously he comes out of that Harbaugh tree, right? And then you go back to Michigan. Now, he did have he spent some limited time with Baltimore there. But you go back and look at some of these guys, unless he was to pluck some guys, and he's only been with the Chargers, two years there. It's hard to kind of visualize what probably is going on in his head as far as putting like an offensive coordinator and defensive, a staff together. And that to me would probably, now look, what he's done obviously as a defensive coordinator with the Chargers, that's another thing that I went and looked at. His adjusted net yards per passing attempts number on a defensive side of the ball from the Chargers the last 2 years has been absolutely great. You look at his expected points added on that side of the football has been obviously great. He's kind of considered part of, you spent time with Mike McDonald and in that defense with Baltimore. So obviously you like some of the things, obviously, that Mike McDonald has gone on to do with Seattle there. So that's attractive. But I would say maybe one of the at least from the outsider point of view, when it comes to a guy like Jesse Minter, is, man, who is this guy got to draw on other than his dad when it comes to maybe potentially filling out a staff, and unless you went back to Michigan days. And I know one guy on that Michigan staff that's kind of tied up right now.
Who's that?
The head coach that's in jail, or
Sharon Moore. Well, he's no longer employed by Michigan, but yeah, that's not going to happen. I put up the image on screen because I'm looking at my notes. I have kind of rough connections and staff ideas for everybody, so I'm going to put up the site on screen in a second, just kind of hiding my work here. I have kind of written down lacks connections, so I'm with you there. In terms of the OC, Shane Day, who's the quarterback's coach there, would probably be an OC candidate. He's gotten some looks around the NFL. I have Luke Herrard. For DC, I have Joe Cullen, Chris Hewitt, Navarro Bowman, who's the Chargers linebackers coach, I believe, right now, and even potentially Rob Bryan, who I think is at USC, the connections from their Baltimore days. But yeah, he's a guy like Clay Kubiak who does not come with a lot of connections. That is kind of one thought on these younger hires, is they have not been in the league quite as often. Now, obviously, again, you can know guys without actually coaching alongside them. I assume his dad will probably come along. Like you said, they've worked together at Georgia State, at Michigan, I think, with the Chargers right now. But yeah, there's not a ton of obvious connections there.
Right.
All right, let me put up the site back on screen for you guys, and we'll get to our next question. Got another super chat in. Let me be sure to get to it. That is from Vegas TJG, a $20 super chat. I don't see a question there, but he says earlier, I think they'll sign the Rams guys the Monday after the Super Bowl. And he says guys, and I assume that's intentional. A lot of speculation. And one thing, can you hire Chris Shula as the head coach? And can you bring on Nathan Scheelhaus as the offensive coordinator? Now, Scheelhaus is getting some head coach looks himself from, I know, at least Cleveland. And so we'll see what happens with that search. But that is a very popular thought right now, to pair Shula and Scheelhaus. And I think, as you said today, Dave, make it the Pittsburgh Rams.
Yeah, then go ahead and see what Raheem Morris is doing to maybe be a defensive coordinator. Obviously, Shula and I think Morris have some connections, obviously, right?
From LA. Yeah, from the Rams, and that'd be one heck of a start of a coaching staff there. So appreciate the super chat, and we'll see if that ends up taking place. We just touched 100 people in the chat, so really appreciate that. Be sure to like the stream to bring in more of Steeler fans, because our next live stream, there may be let me ask you this, let me ask chat. both of you guys, on our next live stream 2 weeks from now, will Pittsburgh have their head coach in place?
You asking me too?
Yeah. I'll ask the chat, and I'll ask you as well.
Let's see, the 2nd of February.
I don't know exactly what date that is.
That's the February the 2nd. When in yeah, I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, so that is that quick? I mean, it's not really quick. It's probably about standard for what their searches have been, even as rare as they've been.
I mean, for as far as the Steelers go, that would be the latest.
Well, yeah, but in terms of timeline from old coach to new coach, it's been about 3.5 weeks.
Right.
Which kind of fits there. So I think I say right after that. I think I won't say it'll come quite that early. All right, what else do we got here? Let me scroll back up. Find our next question. Appreciate so many people here offering questions right now. Andrew says, who are your top 3 options between Shula, Flores, and Shieldhouse? I don't have it ranked like that. I mean, I had Halfley, Shula, and Minter as my top 3. Halfley gone. Everyone hates him. I liked him. Miami likes him too. So I now have.
I had him Shula, Minter, Halfley.
Okay, so I'm at Shula and Minter, who would bump into third. I don't have a whole list of. I'm still kind of working through a couple of these candidates, but learning a lot more about Avaro and Weaver is a real sleeper candidate. I know Mike Odessa's got a question about that, so a name to watch here, but Shula will be top of my list, Andrew. All right, next question comes from Dane Barone. I might have called you Dan earlier. Apologize for that. He says, who do you speculate as the current front runners to land the head coach job at this state? Front runner can be such a nebulous term of what does that mean for teams still. I would say they're basically done with the first round. Do you expect any new names to be added to the mix, Dave?
Unless it's someone like McDermott, as far as guys that would have had to been kind of the virtual type guys, you would have thought that they would have reached out to all those guys by now, right? For guys under contract with other teams that were in the playoffs. Now, obviously, you got McCarthy, you got Flores. We'll see, obviously, with the news breaking with McDermott if they go down that path. I can't imagine many more names being added to the list at this point,
right?
Especially when you're starting to technically phase 2 of this thing and line it up, in-house making next week technically, or I guess this week, your in-house guys. I suppose that could spill over into Monday or Tuesday of next week, but you would think that maybe they'd want to get of their select candidates all the in-house stuff done, whatever they can do this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, Flores is coming in Tuesday, so that's early. McCarthy, we don't know the date on him, but you would imagine maybe that is going to be a Wednesday thing, and they'll have kind of the second round start, maybe with Weaver Friday or something like that might be the approach, or maybe Thursday they'll bring somebody else in, so maybe that's kind of the way that they're kind of cleaning this and a dividing line between, because I say first round is done, and still have first-time interviews with Flores and McCarthy, but I don't think any other names are going to get added to this list. I think Pittsburgh's next head coach will be one of these 8 candidates right now, and so you get Flores, McCarthy, and probably early this week, and then start second round mid to late week.
Okay.
All right, let's see. And then in terms of front runner, I mean, Shula is a popular name. I would say, Shula, Weaver, Flores is kind of my gut check on it right now. You can put Shieldhouse in there too, but what do you think, Dave?
We had a long talk about Weaver and went back and watched some interview stuff with him, and he could really be the underdog that's being talked about the least, I think, of all these guys.
Or as Tony Romo might say, the overdog, if he's the favorite here. Made that comment. I forget what that was in reference to. That got some play online. Romo's taking some heat here for the job he's done. Another Dave says, how bad is Harbaugh trying to back out of that contract right now? I think he's happy. He got $100 million. He got full roster control. He's got some young guys to work with in the NFC East. He's in a division he's familiar with from his Philadelphia days. I think he has no regrets at all.
I saw someone joke on Twitter after the McDermott news broke this morning that the Giants better make sure they get the hair dryer out and make sure that ink dries real quick. No, I think he's happy. It's just kind of ironic now. You have both Harbaughs in major the biggest major media markets, right? In the United States now at this point. Yeah, I suppose he's pretty happy at this point. Got a young quarterback to work with, got some young talent over there. I suppose he's not having second thoughts after McDermott got fired.
I guess we'll never know, because that is signed, sealed, delivered, and the Giants are showing videos of him in the building right now. So I'm probably locking those doors behind him as soon as he walks in the building, but he's going to be the Giants head coach. Cincy AV8R says, since we're basically in the off season, I have a fun one for you guys. For Mike Tomlin's eventual book, what would be one question you would ask him that he would have to answer truthfully? So as we always talk about, if you gave Mike Tomlin the truth serum, what would you ask him, Dave?
Me?
Yep.
And Tomlin.
Yep, one question.
I would say, do you have an aversion to throwing to the middle of the field?
Okay.
Do what are your true thoughts on throwing to the middle of the field?
Fair. I think I'd one of two questions, and just doing this off the rip here. A, what was the decision and reason to keep Matt Canada for the 2023 season instead of firing him? Was it truly just they didn't want to have to pay the contract, or was there a thought about continuity between Canada and Pickett? What was the reason to keep what seemed like a sinking ship? And then also just, what percentage of plays did you actually call on game day with Terrell Austin? Austin said that Tomlin would jump in when he saw fit. What does that mean? I'd love to know the answer to that.
There you go.
All right, good question, since you appreciate that. Snapperhead369 says, Flores would have me deeply disappointed if he's to hire reeks too much of continuing Tomlin with him being a coach here a couple seasons ago. It was just 1 year. I think they're their own men. I mean, there's some similarities. Obviously, defensive-minded kind of guys have a bit of an edge to them, but I wouldn't sit there and say this is Tomlin 2.0 by hiring Brian Flores.
I wouldn't either, but a lot of people, it's easy to link that, and that's another one along with Mentor that, man, you look at the work, especially in the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat and look, I posted those full numbers again from the regular season today, and I know people at this point are like, shut up about that damn stat, but say what you want about that stat, but that really held the water again this year. And you look at the differentials, the top three teams, three of the four teams that are left were the top three teams, Seattle, Rams, and Patriots, in differential of adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. All three of those defensive numbers were under 6, and all three of those offensive numbers were over 7. And then you look at the Denver Broncos, their defensive number was obviously under 5, and they basically treaded water at that 6.0 number at quarterback with Bo Nix, and obviously they won't have Bo Nix. And then you go look at what did I say? The top 8 teams all made the playoffs in differential, and then I think it was 11 of the 12 top teams in differential all made the playoffs there. So what am I getting at here? You got to have a passing game, and you got to have a defensive passing game to win in today's NFL. And this stat continues to hold water. And yeah, I look at watching some Minnesota stuff over this past year. There were times where Minnesota was just getting gashed on the ground, but man, when you look at what Flores does schematic-wise, in a way, you go back, and I remember studying for the Vikings game and just the rotation of the coverages and all the different things that he would do on with the defense and disguising coverages. I mean, that cannot be ignored, and that's something that we have not seen to that level in Pittsburgh in forever in a day, that kind of stuff there. So as far as the defensive mind goes with Flores, it's hard to just say, too much like like Tomlin, and that kind of stuff, because what that guy has done as far as pass defense goes just cannot be ignored in today's NFL.
Yeah, well said, Dave. Volume turned down 9,600 says, so Aaron Rodgers ended the regular season with 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Is there a scenario in which we see the Steelers get better quarterback numbers in 2026? Rudolph, Will Howard, Kyler, Tua, Jameis. It is hard to see somebody bettering Rodgers' passing numbers, Dave.
You are correct. And look, I'm just going to tell everybody my initial thoughts here, and I revealed them to my wife, not that she cares, earlier.
You haven't told
morning.
me, right?
Yeah, I haven't told you. I don't think I told you either. Regardless of who this next head coach is, we can get excited. Several will get excited, several won't like it, and all like that. I think that at the quarterback position, assuming that this team cannot make some sort, I'm silently hoping that Fernando Mendoza, who I'm looking at on my screen right now, throws like 7 interceptions tonight, gets tossed out of the game tonight, and then goes full AB and flips everybody off to kind of hurt his draft stock tonight. So assuming that does not happen, I think that it is in this team's best interest, and this is going to make a lot of people mad. This is just where my mind is at right now on January 19th at 7:36 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
The Steelers should roll forward with Will Howard and Mason Rudolph, and get a good look at Will Howard as best as they can. Hopefully they bring in a coordinator, good coordinator, whoever the coordinator is, that can try to. They need to get a long look, and either he has it and something to build on, from what you see in 2026, or he doesn't, and then you end up with a 5-12 or whatever record, and then you're right there in the thick of things for the 2027 draft with hopefully what looks like a much better quarterback class there. I'm tired of these retreads. We've been there, we've done that. If you brought Aaron Rodgers back, you're not going to get anything much more than that. A lot of people will say, well, what about Malik Willis? What about Mac Jones? I mean, if we're being realistic here, do we, what is probably the best case scenario there? You end up another 9-8 season, maybe 10-7. You go maybe at best you go to the playoffs and get bounced. If anything that we've learned about this adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat, if you cannot get a quarterback pushing 7 or over 7, you're not going to compete for a Super Bowl. You're not. So my mindset right now, and it's on one of the unfortunate things looking back at 2025 season now, is damn it, we didn't even get to, and I'm not saying Will Howard's going to amount to a hill of beans, right?
Yeah, you just want to see. You just want to see. You want to find out.
I just want to see, and the bad thing is we didn't even get to see him take a dadgum snap during the preseason either there. So if it were up to me, and look, you're going to have, the new coach staff come in, and obviously that's only half of the problem there. You're going to have to, this team's not going to go anywhere until they find a franchise quarterback, plain and simple. So why not use 2026 to maybe work on building more pieces on offense and defense during the draft, and go in that direction, and then take a long, hard look at Will Howard, see if there's anything to work with, and if there is, fine. If there's not, then you go into the 2027 draft, hopefully picking in the top 8 or whatever, so you have a chance to either move up or what have you in what looks to be a little bit stronger quarterback class.
How did Tiff receive when you laid out this plan? Was she in support?
I don't know if she cared.
She gave you a thumbs down earlier for some separate.
I didn't get no thumbs, nothing.
Okay, just no
other
response.
Other than take one, shove it up my, what. But.
All right, I get the thought, I get the instinct. It's kind of accelerationist theory of either how it's going to be the gem and he's the guy, or the season's going to kind of tank and you get a high pick and you kind of roll this team into something bad, but maybe a chance for growth, the way that many teams have done. So I don't know where my thoughts are at. The quarterback pool obviously looks really shallow. So what are you going to find out there that's going to be really attractive and make you feel like you can truly compete? It looks very limited right now. And Malik Willis goes to, let's say, Miami with Halfley and company. Then that takes maybe him off the board. So I get the thought there. But I would just say that even if you have a middling 2026 and you're picking 18th overall in 2027, you can still trade up and make an aggressive move. You got to give up capital for it, and that's not ever ideal. But look at what Buffalo did, what the Chiefs did, what Baltimore did. They all traded up for first-round quarterbacks,
right.
And if he's the guy, he's the guy. No one will care about what picks you give up. So I know your point of kind of like sink or swim, and if you sink, then you get the high pick in 27. But I don't think it doesn't need to be the path to get a potentially good quarterback in the first round.
Now, look, if there were better options potentially out there, and look, Malik Willis is going to get a lot of talk, and I do think that's intriguing, but you got to be real careful there with the sample size. And Mac Jones, even though I think he did well in the limited opportunities, obviously, over there in 49ers. But even so, what is his? Can you get him to a ceiling where his adjusted net yards per pass attempt stat is even close to 7? I kind of doubt it. I think he's in the best possible system for him right now in San Francisco to get his top side ceiling out of him at this point. So if it were up to me, and assuming no better options come open in either free agency or trade options there at quarterback, damn it, just spend 2026 to figure out Will Howard.
I get it. As things stand now, my thoughts aren't firmed up, but I'm not really into the Kyler Murray reclamation project or Tua. Kind of missed me with that. And Anthony Richardson, I kind of have similar feelings. So it really becomes kind of a limited pool at that point. Maybe a Mac Jones, but I hear you. I get the thought.
And
we'll
you
talk
don't
about
want Cousins, right? You
Yeah.
don't want none of the Cousins stuff. And who else might potentially be out there,
I will have to look. It's not an attractive list, and obviously the draft looks pretty shallow. Again, you're evaluating is Ty Simpson a potential guy or not. So I may come to your conclusion too, just by virtue of there's nothing else I like out there. So whatever is the remainder is your answer, and that is currently Mason Rudolph and Will Howard.
Right.
All right.
A lot of people asking about cap space. No, I've got something coming on that pretty soon. The cap space. This team's not going to have an issue with cap space this offseason. They're going to roll over a chunk left over from this year on top of everything else. We'll see what some of these cuts are. We'll see, is Cam Hayward going to come back and play out his final season? They're going to be fine. Yeah, they're probably going to give contract to Joey Porter Jr. We'll see about Keanu Benton. We'll see about potentially Nick Herbig, but they're going to be fine from a cap perspective. The thing that I think that everybody needs to ask themselves is not the cap issue. It's how much are the Steelers going to be willing to spend in cash this year, because they spent above and beyond the cap number in 2025. They even spent a little bit more than what I thought they would spend. Not that I'm the end all do all of that. But and with this being the third year of the CBA, and with this team, new head coach and just the shape of the roster right now, I'm willing to bet that they don't spend above whatever the 2026 cap number ends up being in cash. In fact, I'm kind of expecting it to be around the 97% range of the cap number in cash. So they're going to be fine to do things that they want to do, I believe, when it comes to free agency, along those lines. But I'm not expecting this team to go as hog wild as they did in cash spending in 2025 and 2026. So don't worry about the cap side of it. Wonder about what the cash spending is going to look like.
All of that to say, to get back to the original question, will somebody beat Rodgers' numbers? It's hard to see that. Now, could they make up for some of that in rushing production, of which Rodgers offered essentially nothing of? That's a possibility, not Rudolph or Howard, but, well, Howard's a little mobile, but obviously not significant amounts there. But if they were to get somebody else, then maybe. But yeah, I don't see the passing numbers getting surpassed. All right, Dave, let's kind of go rapid fire through these questions. We want to be off by 8 o'clock to watch the national title game. David Kapoor, right to my heart. Danny Smith for head coach. See if he takes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers job. We should have mentioned that on the podcast. He's interviewed for the Bucs special teams job. We don't know if he's going to get it or not, but he clearly wants to keep coaching. Fred Spicer, wonder if they would consider McDermott. It's a fair point. I just feel like you get a guy who couldn't get over the hump with Josh Allen, bring him to Pittsburgh without Josh Allen. Can he get over the hump? It just seems like not the right direction to go.
All right, we got this coming in from Mark Maskey, who I have followed.
Did you give me your news? You didn't hear the news bloop.
Mark Maskey, who's covered the NFL for quite some time, more from a kind of a surface level, I guess, more than anything. He's the NFL reporter for the Washington Post. I've followed him for years. He says Brian Flores is believed to be a serious contender for the Steelers head coaching job. He previously worked for the Steelers as their linebackers coach under Mike Tomlin before his successful defensive coordinator stint with the Vikings. So that came in 11 minutes ago from Mark Maskey.
Are we getting that just from a work standpoint? Just making sure that we're all aware?
I just put that in there. I'm multitasking yet again. You got two multitasking.
You're doing a great job. Doing a great job. Yeah, like I said earlier, I asked about who I thought were the quote-unquote favorites. I said Flores, Shula, and Weaver were kind of maybe the three in my head. And obviously there's a lot of affinity for Flores, and we'll see if he is the guy. All right, so that's some news for you in the live stream. And Mike Adesso saying, Yins ain't going to like this, but I've heard from numerous people that Weaver is killing his interviews and is loved around the league. Also, that he has a lot of similar Tomlin traits. Yeah, certainly can see the attraction to Anthony Weaver, just hearing some of the press conferences he's done recently in Miami.
Look, Justin Watson, 23. I get it. He says the popular perception of Will Howard within the fan base drives me crazy. Handing a 6th-round pick the keys of any NFL franchise is insanity. I'd rather evaluate serious options. Okay, what Justin, what serious options are you wanting to evaluate outside of this organization right now?
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's really slim pickings. So. But just to counter your point, if Art Rooney's comment is I never want to rebuild, never kind of want to have a bad season, will he be okay with going into a year if it's Rudolph and Howard, which objectively would be maybe probably the worst quarterback depth chart in football?
Sure. I get it. But I mean, I'm open to hering guys' names other than Malik Willis and Mac Jones too,
yeah.
You know, and I have said that those guys will more, Mac Jones is still under contract, with the 49ers, so you'd have to trade for him. And then obviously Malik Willis is probably going to be, at least from where we sit right now, one of the top prizes, right? If you call it that, when it comes to the quarterback free agency market. So you and with his small sample size, you better be careful when it comes to guaranteed money in case he does crap out. So anybody else in the chat want to throw out any other potential guys to roll with other than in-house of Howard and Mason, and then other than outside potential guys than Malik Willis and Malik Willis and Mac Jones? I'm all ears. Put them in the chat.
Yeah. Please do. All right, Dave, let's keep going through. Thomas says, what about John Gruden? He seems to like Will Howard. I thought Gruden would get some looks this cycle as teams were kind of inching closer and closer to kind of bringing him back into the NFL's good graces, but does not seem to be the case on John Gruden. The age may be a factor in that, among other things. Lou says, thank you for the great job covering my favorite team all season. You're welcome. And Ben says, hi. John Pennington, David Alex, is there anyone you guys will be watching closely in tonight's game? Mentioned Pons, Cooper, the receiver from Indiana, but again, I'm pretty bare bones on my draft intel.
The wide receiver for Indiana and Indiana, who's that? Surratt?
I think there's a couple of them. I think it's Cooper. I think the guy that you mentioned too, although I don't know if Surratt was if he's coming back to school or not. I forget. I'm just so, it's not been in my forefront for any part of the season, and with all the coaching stuff, it's been a little bit later transition into draft talk for me at least.
Elijah Surratt has declared for the 2026 NFL draft.
All right, so a couple receivers to check out in Pittsburgh will be in the market for sure in the draft in the offseason. Thoughts on dumping Johnny Smith for a box of chocolates and drafting a tight end in the 3rd or 4th round? We'll see who the OC hire is, what his philosophy is with tight ends. You got Washington, you got Fryermuth, you got pending free agent Connor Hayward, but Johnny Smith is not going to be back in 2026. So maybe goes to the Chargers if Arthur Smith gets a job there or something.
And I don't even think you're going to be able to trade him for a bag of footballs either.
Yeah, or a box of chocolates. Mike Adesso, sure, starting to seem like everyone wants Shula as coach. I think the favorite from Steeler fans is Shula, a little bit of Shieldhouse too. I think I've heard some positive things on Flores, kind of split reaction, but I would say Shula is, if you polled every Steeler fan in the world, I think the majority would say Chris Shula.
It feels like that would be the majority at this point.
And most saying then bring Shieldhouse to Pittsburgh as OC. All right, what else do we got here? Not a question, but a statement. Let's hire whatever coach comes in and say they want to build around Will Howard. Boom, he's hired. And so that's Scotty's commentary on that. The Giants followed the Rooney Rule. Steelers aren't. They did. You have to. You can't hire a head coach until you fulfill the Rooney Rule. So I don't remember exactly who their candidates were, but there was a search, and they did that, fulfilled that before the Harbaugh hired. Could they be bringing in McCarthy to look at him for OC after he doesn't get the head coaching job? It's possible. I feel like he's going to be a head. Like, it's hard to go back to being OC after being a long-time head coach for almost 20 years. So I'm not going to rule it out, especially if it's a younger DC, a Shula type. But I find that to be unlikely.
I agree. Now, once again, as we talked about with Mentor, you don't feel like you got a lot of like he's got a. At least from the outside, it feels like it's hard for him to put a staff together. So could that potentially be an option? I guess, but it does feel like it's head coach or bust for McCarthy at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of my sense of it as well. What else? Do Pittsburgh Steelers employees get free espresso coffee shots? That's from Lightning Rod 7. They probably need it right now. Omar was looking pretty tired. Tomlin too, although obviously not a Steeler anymore. But I'm sure they have their supply coffee as much as they can drink. Let's see, what else do we have here? Do you think it'll be telling if they don't hire someone by the time the Rams lose a game? Yeah, it's interesting question. Do you want to do due diligence and talk to these guys in person? I don't know. I think they want to wait at least through next week and kind of see how these title games go. Because again, you can interview, even if the Rams win, because you've already talked to Shula and Shieldhouse, you can have in-persons with them next week, starting a week from today. So you can have that conversation. I think Pittsburgh will wait until then.
I think so too.
Especially with Flores, only Baltimore has interviewed him for their head coaching role, correct? He's the only other team that has gotten a head coach request an interview.
Who's that? Shula?
For Flores. Brian Flores.
Oh, Flores.
He's gotten some DC looks. His contract's expiring, but I think Baltimore is the only other team that's looked at him as a head coach. And so from that standpoint, you may have some time if you're considering Flores pretty heavily, if you're considering Anthony Weaver, who's also in the mix for Baltimore. So you're kind of two teams competing, but there probably isn't this wide pool of 5 teams looking at your candidates. And the teams who are looking at Shula and Shieldhouse obviously have to wait the way the Pittsburgh has to wait.
Right. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing a lot of teams being connected to Flores.
Okay, so that may be able to give you a little more patience. But I think Pittsburgh will be patient anyway because they don't do the search often and they want to make sure they feel like they get it right at the least. Let's see. Alex, this is from Mike. Navarro Bowman said the other day he's stepping away from coaching to watch his son, a top basketball recruit in high school. Okay, I didn't know that. I was just kind of jotting down some names, so I'm glad I didn't write about that and just said it on here. So, all right, I will cross Navarro Bowman off the list. Appreciate that. All right, any other questions here? Chris Shula, birthday February 6th, so Steelers have to hurry up and hire to keep the narratives. I guess they're for a young a sub.
Hey, there you go.
He's 39, right, Shula? So before he turns 40? Could that be his 40th birthday gift? Could that be
there you go.
Hire, become a head coach would be a heck of a way to start your 40s. So I think he's 39 because Sheila's is 35. Double check.
Shula is 39 and his birthday is February 5th.
5th?
Yeah, according to Wikipedia.
All right, Mike said 6. So either way, coming up here. So that might be his 40th birthday. But other candidates and that report from Maskey about Flores is certainly worthwhile. Steelers Art, I don't want Minter because he's a Harbaugh guy. I'd be okay with Jesse Minter.
Yeah, I would be okay with Minter.
Do you think Skaronic
once again, the drawback is the ability to put it, it's hard to link what a staff would look like.
And again, that's going to be a question in the interview process. If he gets a second interview, what is your staff? Who are you looking at? Who are your top 3 candidates for basically every position, but certainly your coordinators? That'll be an important component, so you know, and that have, and for all these guys, you want an idea of what coaching staff you're looking at. Also, I was kind of reading up about, interview process and the NFL collectively. Sometimes these guys come in and say, I want this guy and this guy and this guy, but they're all under contract. I'll get them out of their contract. It's like, you probably won't get them out of their contract, because why would a team willingly give up their coaches? So, it's not only what your coaching staff looks like, but who can you actually get and bring to Pittsburgh with your staff budget, with their contract situations for lateral type moves, are all part of this process. There's a lot of layers to it.
I think Josh Miller's got a super chat in there for you to answer.
Oh, is there? Did I miss one? I apologize. There it is. Thank you so much, Josh. I apologize for that. If you were in the room with Mr. Rooney interviewing the top guy, Shula Minter, what tailor-made questions would you want those candidates to answer? I've kicked around maybe writing about that once this list becomes more of a finalist list and the kind of initial search. In terms of specific questions for each guy, I'd have to think about that. There are obviously the big picture ones about your view of the roster and your coaching staff and your philosophy and how you handle situations and things like that. Specifically, though,
I'd like to know their thoughts on new age analytics and all.
Yeah, very. I assume that's probably pretty good, given the Rams, I think, are pretty up on that. But that is certainly an element of it. I'm just trying to think anything specifically to a man about their resume. I'd have to think about that, to be honest with you. I don't know if I have one specific for Shula and Minter in mind right now, other than maybe, Shula's relationship with his dad and Dave and the late Don Shula, and Minter, his dad, kind of some of the what have you learned. But I'd have to think about that for a more specific, better question. All right. Sorry for missing that, Josh. Appreciate you sending it in. Anything else we'll kind of get through pretty quickly? Do you think the Bills should try to throw the kitchen sink at Tomlin to coach in 26? I mean, they can try, but if the man doesn't want to coach, he looked pretty happy in Georgia, hanging out, watching his daughter. So you can, what did Tomlin say? Not a booster with a big enough blank check. He put in Buffalo, not a Buffalo with a big enough blank check to get me out of coaching. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the future for Tomlin, but I don't think 26 is going to be the coaching year for Mike Tomlin.
Everything you read right now, he's not going to at least coach in 2026, and I don't know, he might be done, period, at this point. He
very well could be. Bring in Brissett to compete with Howard and draft a quarterback next year, says Greg Koch. That's not a bad suggestion, Jacoby Brissett. Obviously not going to lead you to the Super Bowl, but as a bridge. But how different is Brissett and Mason Rudolph? Probably pretty similar quarterbacks. Is it worth bringing them in? It's a fair point, but just kind of a counterpoint to that.
Yeah, we'll obviously see how this offseason roster starts to fill up, and they'll probably take 4 quarterbacks to camp again, right?
Yep, they always do. So they have a couple more to go, at least 2 more to go. Let's see, anything else here? Thoughts on the team signing McDermott and working with... Okay, I just started reading this. I'll read the rest of it, though. Thoughts on the team signing McDermott and working with the CIA to run a PSYOP, which ultimately convinces Josh Allen to demand a trade. I'm in that plan. The blood fire if you get Josh Allen to Pittsburgh.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah. Let's see. Called Houston about Davis Mills. Let's get a little spicy. Davis Mills does not feel spicy. It feels like we have Mason Rudolph. Maybe Mills is a bit better. I know he went 3-0 this year, but it just feels like you're kind of rearranging the chairs in the Titanic, to steal your term there, Dave. But is he under contract for next year? Davis Mills?
I can find out real quick.
And obviously, the way that Stroud imploded to end the year is not going to give this team any desire to move on from Mills, should he be under contract for 26.
He is under contract with the Texans for 2026 at $6 million base salary.
Yeah, probably going to be hard to wrangle him away from Houston. All right. Anything else? The one question I would ask all these guys is, do you have a problem with throwing to the middle of the field? I think that's what you said, or at least your question to Tomlin. So John would ask that to the current field. What else do we have here? I remember Flores helping Pickett when they were with the Steelers. I think Pickett did talk about that, right? Helping him during practice, kind of 2-minute drill type stuff. What do you see? Yeah, that's a good point. Not that it ultimately helped Kenny Pickett too much, but coaching is coaching. Tyler Shuck and Anthony Anderson, says Tom. I think Shuck's staying in New Orleans. I don't expect him to be on the move there. Someone says Marcus Mariota. Dave, there's Dave's response for you there. Let's see. Love what you guys do. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. I think we're basically going to end it there. I think we hit most of the questions. We might have missed a couple. I apologize for that, but we're going to get out of here and watch this game. So we'll see the Steelers coaching search as it goes forward and take it from there. So great questions, great super chats. Thank you guys so much. And Dave, as always, thank you for hanging out with us.
All right, chat, you guys are and girls are amazing. I appreciate it. Appreciate the super chats. Appreciate the great questions. Who knows 2 weeks from today what we're going to be talking about, possibly talking about a new head coach and all. So, Alex, you do a great job with these. I'm glad you have to do it other than I. You do a great job at it. So I'll leave everybody with peace and love and enjoy the game tonight.
All right, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out the site at SteelersDepot.com. Check out an archived version of this stream on the site as well. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.